She's about to jump. Be quiet and listen.
Being able to choose your own character and gender is nothing new in video games. It's been an option in role-playing games for decades, with series like The Elder Scrolls having had this option as one of their core tenets forever. But only recently has Ubisoft, one of the largest developers and publishers in the world, begun giving us this option in their largest games. Used to be that Assassin's Creed was about one person with a story tightly linked to this person. This was the case all up until Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where you could alternate between Jacob and Evie. Some sequences had to be played as one of them, however, so I'm not really counting Syndicate because the choice isn't that impactful. The first Assassin's Creed game to really present us with this option was Odyssey, a game set in ancient Greece during the time of Socrates. Assassin's Creed is no longer an historical action-adventure game, but an action role-playing game, a term which comes with certain consequences. You can level up and become stronger through a myriad of ways, but crucial to this video is the fact that you can choose to be either male or female, Alexios or Cassandra. I normally choose to be male in these games since I myself am a man. I found that it's sometimes easier to relate to a male character simply because we look and sound more alike, and I find that often, and perhaps because they are modeled by male artists, that certain animations simply look better when performed by men. That is of course a matter of personal taste. What I have found though is that in Ubisoft's latest RPG titles, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Immortals Fenyx Rising, is that the sense of reward for accomplishing my tasks are greater when done as a woman than when completed as a man. This video will therefore explore why this might be and why you should consider playing more games through the perspective of a woman. Potential spoilers will be discussed in this video for these two games, by the way. Early on in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you meet a girl named Phoebe. Phoebe is your friend and a kind of companion, even though you rarely do any actual missions together. Instead, she shows up here and there, clearly an important person in the main character's life, as they've spent years together on the same island. Phoebe remains a minor character in large parts of the game, but whenever she shows up, it's clear that she's important to our main character, who is probably around a decade older than her. Again, Phoebe is a minor character, but less than 5 minutes into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we get the sense that these two are more than friends. Through the way they speak to each other, it becomes clear that they have a sort of parent-child relationship, or at the very least an older sibling, younger sibling type relationship.
Do you think Zeus would bless me with an ego like he blessed you, Cassandra? Maybe you could ask him for me.
I'll try to put in a good word for you.
Finally.
So, what are you doing here?
Now this type of storytelling, where you have an older character escorting or protecting a younger one, is not uncommon. The most known of these are probably The Last of Us and God of War, both of which present a leading older male role model, even though the child varies from girl to boy respectively. I chose Cassandra as my main character in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and even though I didn't realize it at first, playing as a woman relating to other women feels very different than doing so as a man. As Cassandra, your relationship with Phoebe becomes that of sisterhood, two girls trying to do what they can to survive and thrive in this ancient world despite the odds. There's also the fact that Odyssey takes place in an ancient, hyper-masculine era. Of course, if this was real life, women would have essentially no role in Odyssey other than traditional female roles, but because this is essentially a fantasy game loosely based on reality, I'm going to look completely past this point because it does not really matter. That being said, in Odyssey, most fighting roles are relegated to men. Virtually, if not all, soldiers and commanders fighting for Sparta or Athens are male, and the same goes for most bandits or pirates. Women are either just regular people or even mercenaries sometimes, and some of the main characters in high positions are in fact women in Odyssey. But when remembering what kind of society ancient Greece was, playing as a woman feels in itself like an act of empowerment. Because you and I both know that Cassandra is capable of doing everything her male counterpart is capable of. The only difference being that Alexios is expected to be able to do so, while Cassandra defies her social expectations by doing so, or at the very least, our expectations of what an ancient Greek woman was capable of. What I like about Assassin's Creed Odyssey is that the game very rarely, or in fact never, reminds you of your gender. Cassandra is treated the same way Alexios is, and nobody expects less of her. As such, Odyssey is not a story of how a woman overcomes the odds, the trials of being a woman in a man's world, or anything like that. Instead, it is a story of how a person, who happens to be a woman, helps and saves the people around her because she is strong enough to do so, and her strength is never in doubt simply because she has tits instead of balls. I love seeing Cassandra bonding with the other women in the game, and I get the feeling that they build each other up as women at the same time, a feeling I would not have had playing the game as Alexios. The same thing can be said for Ubisoft's latest action RPG, Immortals Fenyx Rising. I've played over a dozen hours of Fenyx Rising as a man, and I've come to really enjoy this game, but my fiancé is the one who's played the Fenyx the most, and I've been watching her game beside me. Immortals Fenyx Rising is very similar to Odyssey in many ways. The game takes place in a mythical version of ancient Greece where the Greek gods are real, and it's up to you to save them. You can choose to play as a man or a woman, and you can even choose to change your look and sex during the game, which is great since that's what I eventually ended up doing. Just like in Odyssey, actually making this video made me realize how alike these games are, you are very early on presented with a sibling, although this role is not as important as it is in Odyssey. You have an older brother in Fenyx Rising, regardless of whether you're playing as a woman or a man, and this brother is looked up to by the main character Fenyx, and you're essentially trying to save both him and the world as you become stronger and stronger. The problem is, and now comes a spoiler warning for Fenyx Rising's brother about halfway through the game, is that, again, spoiler, the brother shows up, and in a very cocky manner believes and explains to us that he is in fact the chosen one, prophesies to destroy Typhon and the evil forces in the world.
So I have to convince you that I'm the hero. Get it?
Except I'm not a child.
Of course not. No prophecy is 100% accurate. Probably. Oh, did you think the prophecy was about you?
No, I didn't.
Then there's no need to worry. You don't want to take on that huge red monster thing anyway.
Typhon.
Take it. Listen, you don't have to shoulder the burden anymore. Leave the rest up to me. I know you're not much of a fighter, shield bearer.
He treats Fenyx in a very demeaning way, as a sidekick or a tiny helper rather than the hero they are. Before I played Fenyx as both genders, I genuinely thought that when playing as male Fenyx, I would have an older sister to save. But this was not the case, and both genders must face a cocky, demeaning older brother. But this is also where it becomes interesting. In both Odyssey and Fenyx Rising, we are presented with the exact same world despite playing as different characters. And as in Odyssey, where the relationship between Cassandra and Phoebe feels more special because they're both women, the unfairness and sense of not being treated as you deserve feels more acute as a woman in Fenyx Rising. Rather than simply coming into conflict with an older brother, the entire scenario is given more weight because of the added gender-based difference between Fenyx and the brother. This is not implied by the game at all, but because we, the players, live in a society,
you know, we're living in a society,
and because many women face difficulties simply because they are women, Fenyx Rising gives an excellent example of such unjustness without actually spelling it out for us. The same goes for many of Fenyx Rising's main story arcs. Like in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you need to run around, explore, fight, and save these legendary heroes, which in this game are some of the most famous Greek gods. The cases of Aphrodite and Athena stand out here, as their troubles can be seen as reflections of how our own society treats women. It's done in pretty great ways too. Essentially, Aphrodite, Athena, and the other gods have lost their essence, meaning a part of their soul which makes them whole. Aphrodite, for example, a Greek goddess known for sowing discord and spilling the tea of the gods, has lost her sense of ego. Without it, she is a harmless, selfless person.
Oh, thank you, Phoenix. I'll be serving fresh apples to the less fortunate across the Golden Isle in no time.
It might seem strange to talk about how giving Aphrodite her ego back, which makes her into a markedly worse person, is a good thing. Yet with the ego comes a sense of self and a sense of self-worth and self-respect. Aphrodite needs her ego to be her whole self again, warts and all, but still a goddess powerful enough to stand up to Typhon, the main evil guy.
Speechless? I know. Can you believe you actually had to convince me to return to this body? Oh, without you, I would have lost the ability to love myself forever.
Actually, I stole that years ago.
Clearly. Looks like you've been loving yourself far too much. Oh, you might want to disinfect that toga.
Oh, glad you're back.
Athena, on the other side, is normally a wise and powerful figure, but in Fenyx Rising, powerful Athena has been reduced to a somewhat impatient child.
I'm not a child! I'm Athena!
As a girl, Athena is smart beyond her years, but suffers from memory loss and the feeling of not being taken seriously. She is a skinny little girl rather than a strong woman with a spear and helmet. But Fenyx helps her realize that she still has much to offer, and that being stubborn, like Athena continues to be as a child, is a good thing. It makes you stand up for your beliefs when you know them to be right, even though others might mock you for them. And when you're playing as female Fenyx, you get the sense that here's a strong human woman helping a girl goddess out on her luck, and together they find their way forward.
We have to trust in you. You're the goddess of wisdom. Everyone looks to you for judgment and strategy. Is this your path? What someone else told you?
I don't know. Zeus used to tell me what to do.
That's right, we're the perfect team. That's why she loves me.
But you didn't always take his advice. You knew better.
The nerve of this mortal.
Athena, we need real judgment to beat Typhon. Not a flimsy magic staff. Something solid. Like that temple.
My temple? Oh, I could use the power of my temple to open where my essence is. But it would have to be cleansed. I don't know if it's worth it.
That temple is just like you. It's glorious, but it's lessened.
Don't make fun of me!
I'm not. I'm going to show you what I mean. First, we need to restore your temple.
But why?
Because I'm stubborn. Like you used to be.
It's a beautiful message we're given, that daring to state your opinion, to try this despite the odds, or letting others know what you think and feel is something to be encouraged. These are good things for anyone to hear. But in a world where girls are often told to behave or act more timid than boys, Fenyx Rising says, you know what, F that. And as in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Fenyx's gender is never remarked upon and never questioned. Like in any male-dominated game, you are powerful and mighty simply because you have become powerful and mighty, not because of, or even despite, being a woman. It becomes more powerful simply because of how our own society works and how we know things to be here. Instead of putting on a weird, forced, Marvel-esque show of girl power, Ubisoft manages in these games to completely circumvent the issue of gender outright, but instead says universal messages that are good for everyone to hear, but perhaps especially for girls who live in male-dominated societies and cultures. And I think that's pretty special. So the next time you get the choice to play as a woman, I say go for it. But what do you think? Have you played Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Immortals Fenyx Rising and experienced what I have? What do you think of the fact that gender never comes into question? Does it diminish real societal issues, or does it not matter since these games are not taking place in simulations of our histories anyway? Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and let me know what more you'd like to see from me in the future. Cheers, guys!